Okay, today we're going to talk about angles and parallel lines. So we're going to continue with our angle relationships that we were working on yesterday. And now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on what angle relationships we have when we have parallel lines. Remember, parallel lines are lines that never intersect. So we're going to be focusing on what kind of angles we get when we draw a line through those parallel lines. And we get 8 angles that are created, or if I draw multiples, more angles, and what relationships they will have. Our learning target is students can use special angle relationships to find missing angle measures. So we're going to, like I said, continue with that. Write down the heading, angles and parallel lines. If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going on to the next page. Okay, we've got a lot of definitions in this video, so we're going to go over the definitions first. And I've highlighted some of the things of what we have here. First is what we have as a transversal. And the transversal is the red line there. And that is the line that intersects 2 or more lines at different points. So our transversal, you can see we have our parallel lines, or the black lines. And then the red line, as it cuts through there, that's what we're going to have as our transversal. And what that does is that gives us 8 angles. And what we're going to do today is once we have that transversal, we're going to focus on the relationship between the angles that are created by that transversal. So make sure you write down the definition, and then make sure you label the transversal. If you have a different color, you can do that, or just put an arrow and then label it transversal. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. I'm going to go on to the next definition. Our next definition is corresponding angles. So now you can see I've numbered the angles formed by our transversal, which is still the red line, so that we can see how they relate to each other. The first thing I want to talk about is corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are angles that occupy corresponding positions formed by the transversal. What does that mean? What does corresponding mean? Well, angle 1 corresponds to angle 5. They are corresponding angles. They both represent the upper left-hand corner of the 4-angle set. Angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles because they represent the upper right-hand corner. Angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding angles. They represent the same spot in the different set. And then angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. So those are my sets of corresponding angles right there. The thing to remember about corresponding angles is that they are congruent. That means angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent. They are the same angle measure. If angle 1 was 30 degrees, then angle 5 would be 30 degrees. Okay, 2 and 6 would be the same, 3 and 7 would be the same, and 4 and 8 would be the same. So it's important to know that corresponding angles are congruent, and it's important to know where they lie and be able to identify them. Okay, if you need to pause this, go ahead, make sure you have it written down. Otherwise, I'm moving on to the next example. In our next example, we have alternate interior angles. Now, that interior is an important word. The definition basically tells us what we have here. It's 2 angles that lie between the two lines, so between the opposite lines, on opposite sides of the transversal. So the alternating is the opposite sides. The interior means it's between the parallel lines. So this is going to be angle 3 and angle 6. They are alternate interior angles. They alternate the transversal, opposite sides, and they are inside of the parallel lines, which makes them alternate interior angles. Angle 4 and angle 5 are also alternate interior angles. Again, angles are congruent. Okay, so 3 is congruent to 6, and 4 is congruent to 5. All right, so there's a lot of different things we can start to see here with our congruent angles. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to the next definition. Okay, in our next definition, we have alternate exterior angles. So this is basically going to be the same thing, except they lie outside the parallel lines. So that's going to be angle 1 and angle 8. They are alternate exterior angles. They are outside of the parallel lines, and they alternate the transversal. The other set would be angle 2 and angle 7. Again, alternate exterior angles are congruent, so that's important to know. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to the last example. Okay, in the last example, we're going to find angle measures for this one. Okay, so in the first example, A, I want you to find all the angles. So this one is a simple problem, but I want you to be able to just go from one set to the other set. If I tell you that the measure of angle 1 is 130 degrees, then I want you to find all the other angle measures. Well, I know angle 3 is 130 because they are vertical, so that's from a previous video. I know that angle 2 is 50 degrees because they are supplementary. Here's my line, and they are supplementary, so they have to equal 180. I know angle 4 is 50 degrees because that is vertical to angle 2 or supplementary to angle 1 or supplementary to angle 3. Okay, now I got those 4. I want to move on to the other 4. There's lots of ways I can get to the other 4. Okay, with angle 1 being 130, I know that angle 7 is 130 because they are corresponding angles. I know that angle 8 is 130 because they are alternate exterior angles. I also know that it's vertical to 7, which means that they're the same. I also know that it's corresponding to angle 3, which makes them the same. So there's lots of ways that you can figure these out. Now angle 6 I know is 50 degrees. Okay, I know that's 50 degrees because it's supplementary to angle 7 or angle 8. It's corresponding to angle 2, which means they're the same. It's an alternate exterior to angle 4, which means it's the same. Okay. And then angle 5 is also 50 degrees, and there's lots of ways I can get this. Vertical with angle 6 makes it 50. It is supplementary to angle 5 or angle 8. That gets it to 50. It corresponds to angle 4. That gets it to 50. It's an alternate interior with angle 2. That gets it to 50. So there's lots of ways you can think about how it becomes 50, but all of them give it the same angle measurement as 50. All right, and I labeled them all. That's all we had to do. Okay. In example B, I want you to find the value of x. Well, since those are corresponding angles, that means they're congruent. So I'm just going to do 5x plus 18 equals 63 because they are congruent to each other. Subtract 18 from both sides. So I get 5x equals 63 minus 18 is 45. Divide by 5, and you get x equals 9. And that is the value of x. Okay, that is all. If you need to go back and watch anything, go ahead. Otherwise, have a great night.